Zigga zagga, oi, oi, oi. Welcome to another episode of Spillin The Beans. Plenty to talk about, as usual, even though we've not managed to resolve the manager situation as yet. I'm sure we'll dive into that at some point in the podcast, looking at the very dubious-looking shortlist by the bookies. So we'll break into that at some point, because once again, I have my partner in crime, Dave Ingham, with me. How are you doing, Dave?
Full of festive fun, Jonny. How's yourself?
I'm starting to feel a bit festive, actually. I'm kind of working right through and finish on Friday. So, yeah, I'm starting to feel it now. So I look forward to a couple of weeks off. And I've been drinking Baileys as well. Bought myself a bottle from Tesco the other week. And be kind of necking that whilst watching the darts. So that is enough to get you feeling festive, I think. And once again, back from your travels, Ronan. You're not long back in Old Blighty, are you?
Back yesterday, so after a big, after about 6 hours of getting on from Manchester, which was good fun in the rain. But no, back from my visit across to Cologne, so keeping the relations high across both parties there. Yeah,
you're an outlier though, aren't you? You're not a Cologne fan.
No, it was my 10 visit to Gladbach on Saturday, so I'm not very popular amongst some of them. So it took a while for someone to speak to me, to be honest, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, and if you do want to know more about that, actually, I can't remember what issue it's in of Given Beans, but there's a whole piece on Barrow's connection with Colne and yourself and Gladbach, and I think Boyley as well. I think he's a fan from his time back living back around them parts. So yeah, a big connection between Barrow and the northwestern German industrial team. So yeah, do pick up a copy. But let's crack on. As I say, plenty to talk about. So let's see the week that was.
That was the week that was. It's over. Let it go.
Yeah. So once again, Dave, it was very much a game of two halves. We seem to be having quite a few of them this season.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to matter who's in the dugout. We turn it on for 45 minutes, and for the other 45 minutes, we kind of struggle a bit, don't we? We said it so many times, credit to them for coming back, but the kind of the circumstances that we find ourselves 2 goals down, kind of masters of our own downfall there. Some of the kind of individual defending for the goals that we conceded was pretty shocking, to be honest, both as kind of individuals and as a system. So yeah, positives from the second half, but the negatives show that why we are in this situation that we find ourselves in.
Do you think that was consistent with kind of how we were at the back, or it seems to be in a kind of feature under wing as well, where we just kind of have slow starts or leak daft goals? Or do you think it felt a little bit different under McDonald? I'm supposed to be referring to one thing, which is Raglan started at right back, and there'd be a few sort of changes in that area.
Yeah, I mean, he changed the shape. There's not a lot he could do in terms of the personnel back there, but he changed the shape, and yeah, the kind of the group chats and the messages were pinging when the team sheet came out, because you're thinking, is that who's playing at right back? Like, because the kind of the word was that it was going to be a flat back 4, but I initially thought it might have been Jackson put on, utilised at right full back, maybe Shipley left back, Raglan and Canavan in the middle. But no, he put Raglan at right back, which, to kind of paraphrase Sir Humphrey from Yes Prime Minister, was a very brave decision, and I don't think Raglan will be playing at right fullback again. I think, bless him, he's had a decent season, I think, Raglan, but the defending for the goal on Saturday, when that came down his flank, he was flipping and flopping like a fish on the riverbank, wasn't he? But yeah, I mean, he kind of tweaked it. Probably, whether that's him thinking that's the best way forward, or whether that was him thinking he's got to put his stamp on things, I don't know. But fair play to him. He kind of had the good sense to see that it wasn't working and reverted back to the 3 at the back that we're being a bit more accustomed to, and maybe provided a bit more of a platform for going forward. But it's the usual thing, and I think it's what we kind of touched on last week. It's not just the manager, it's not just the players. It's a combination of both, isn't it? And let's see what a week on the training ground does for us on Friday night.
Yeah, because another thing he did change, Ronan, was he give Josh Gordon some much needed support by playing two up top, it looked like at times, bringing in Hemmings. And sort of one thing I took away from it is not that Barrow have a kind of full striker problem, because they've got Josh Gordon and he's playing really, really well. He's putting in the yards, he's getting goals. It seems like Barrow's striker problem seems like they haven't really got the right person to partner him. They tried that with Hemmings, but it's certainly looking a bit better with that support he's getting up top, because for so long now, Ronan's just looked completely kind of isolated and running around a bit like a headless chicken at times.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit kind, personally. I think he's been pretty poor up to that point. I even think that Wigan performance was pretty poor included as well. I think he looked just sort of ran around with not much of an idea, and I think sometimes we get a little bit lost in that, because I think it's sort of like, oh, he's running around, but it's with no sort of direction or any sort of sense behind it. I'm not massively keen on the two up top, because I think we've just got a lot of the same striker who are a bit pish, really, without putting it any sort of blunter than that. I think they're very much a muchness. We've got a lot of bang average League Two strikers to pick from, and I think Gordon, Hemmings and Walker aren't that dissimilar in that sort of element. I'm a bit lost of what we're trying to do up front, because we seem to have a bit of success playing the sort of knockdowns and playing a second ball sort of system, but him and Hemmings only seem to work for that second half of Grimsby for me. I mean, they were at Bromley as well. I thought that Bromley with them two up front was just the biggest waste of time ever. I just don't see how it works.
No, you're right. No, it was a complete waste of time against Bromley and the kind of the two massive lads that they were going up against. Just in terms of like supporting Josh Gordon, I think one of the things that I noticed was, and it's not just about having the two up top, it's about getting the bodies in the box from midfield. It's about having the two that are, when we played the one up top with two supporting and the wing backs. When it works, it's basically three up top, because you get three in the box. And, if you look at the goals on Saturday, Whitfield plays the ball off to Barkhuizen on the right wing and drives into the box. The second goal, Smith puts in a great cross, Gordon's in a fantastic position, but Newby stood on the far post. Now, against Tranmere, none of that was happening. We weren't getting any bodies in the box. Gordon was kind of, flapping about on his own. There was no support for him. So I don't think it's just a case of always got to be two up top. But if it's one, then the midfield have got to drive forward, and fair play to them. Second half Saturday, that's what they've been doing. But it's like every other element of the performance. It's about doing it for a whole game, and then wonder of wonders, maybe doing it 2 games in a row, maybe even 3. Not get too ambitious, all at once. But that's the key to improving performances and getting that goals for tally a bit higher.
Yeah, do you think that was something different then in the second half then, Dave? Because you could probably look at that 2 ways. Against Tranmere, maybe the players aren't doing what Wing wants them to do in terms of following in that attack and getting bodies in the box. Because for that second half against Gillingham, it was really, really impressive in terms of the way they were moving the ball around. They were supporting the strikers. They were getting out wide, and they were really good for them 2 goals, if not unlucky to get the win. So do you think that's something different in a way? Maybe McDonald's saying something, or just a change in approach for players to actually put that little bit more desire and effort in?
I mean, maybe because it was a second half performance. Maybe he kind of got hold of them in the half time and kind of said, well, back end of the first half, you've done all right. You're still in the game, but we've got to be positive. We've got to keep moving forward. And that's kind of what we picked up after the Cambridge game, where we were kind of playing side on and backwards, and we weren't getting bodies forward. And, they're capable of doing it. As I say, it's just the consistency. And I think it was interesting, if you looked on social media, the reaction of the Gillingham fans, and they were like, well, we were well in control. Barrow were one of the worst teams we've played in the first half hour. And then second half, we just sat back. And I think Gareth Ainsworth said it in his post-match. He told them at half-time, go and get 4 and 5. This game is there for the taking. And he said, and we just didn't do it. And we sat back. And, it's the kind of debate I always have of, do they intentionally sit back, or do they kind of notice that the opposition are kind of putting them under pressure and the forced back rather than sitting back. And, if we're on the front foot and we are going forward and we're being positive rather than sideways and backwards all the time, we're going to cause, any team in this league, problems, but we've just got to keep doing it and have the bravery to do it when it's 0-0, not just when it's 2-0 down and you're kind of throwing caution to the wind. We've got to have the bravery to do it at 0-0, at home, away, wherever. Because we have got some decent players. It's just, their ability to kind of put in 90-minute performances that's been lacking this season.
Problem I have of it at the moment, I think it's the distinct lack of bravery from some of the individuals in the park. I think some of them are so careful and are so terrified of making that mistake that it's just meaning that we're making the wrong decision and playing the safety ball all the time. Like, I'm not going to massively criticise certain individuals, although I'd really love to, because I promised myself I'm not going to do that this year. But there is some players on that pitch that I'm really, really terrified of just playing that advanced ball forward or just looking inside. Or I'm not, I think we all agree here, I'm not arsed if they lose the ball. Try to play something that's a bit dangerous and try to break a line. I'm sick to my back teeth of certain individuals hugging the byline, turning back inside and just going, let's give the ball to centre half because I've not lost the ball. Oh God, it's not my problem because I haven't lost the ball. And I think that was what was really grinding my gears towards the back end of Andy Wing, because we were just so happy to be safe. And if we're safe, then it's not my problem sort of attitude. And that's what I'm getting a bit cheesed off about. I think that's what's really sort of what I'm making sort of comments about. It is a bit cowardly. I think it's really cowardly to play football like that. And I think there's an abundance of talent in some positions in that, team that really need to take a look at themselves and think, right, it's not, we've got a manager sacked here. You can argue for one reason or another what that was about, and is it completely the manager's fault? I have my own opinion, but them players need to take a really hard look at themselves now and go, we've not been doing it, and it's massively on them, not just the manager that's just been departed.
And you talk about taking the safe option, but I can't remember whether it was Wing that said it or another manager I was listening to, and says, if you lose the ball on the edge of the opposition's box, well, we've got 80 yards to get it back. But if you pass it back and start putting your own centre halves under pressure, then you're going to start losing the ball on your halfway line or just inside. So you've only got 50 yards to get it back, or 40 or 30 or whatever it might be. So actually, in terms of, playing the safe option and being, the right choice, the further forward you get, like the further away that ball is away from your danger area. So, what's the old cliche? The best form of defence is attack. Let's play in their half. Let's play in their final third, or, in the area or whatever. And let's face in that direction and try and put them under pressure, because, surely it's better to do that. And you could be I'm more forgiving of a player if he loses the ball because he's trying something that's maybe going to affect trying to get us a goal or put them under pressure, then, as you say, someone who just turns around, knocks a square ball 5 yards, back, or knocks a ball 5 yards square or 5 yards back or something, then kind of puts their hands on the hips and says, well, I've done my bit, I've kept the ball, that's all fine because it's all good for possession stats. Turn the other way, put the opposition under pressure.
Yeah, I think for me though, I mean, I mentioned before, and I know you're saying it's not 100% the manager's fault. It never is, for any manager that gets sacked, with the exception of Michael Jolly. But for me, I think when you look at players like McCann, Earing, Booty, Barkhays and Fletcher, they are players who want to get forward. They don't want to be turning their back on themselves. You mentioned there, Ronan, about the kind of cowardly nature sometimes of kind of doing that, but that could well be coming from Wing, that kind of safety first approach and that not being adventurous. I mean, I'll go back because I've mentioned it before, and I know you shake your head that day, and I'll come to you afterwards. When I spoke to Booty, when I met him in Manchester, he talked about that culture shock. He came from a club that played a bit more free-flowing, attacking football, and he clearly felt a sense at Barrow under Wing that wasn't the way we were going to play. He's gone now to Boreham Wood and doing well, obviously with a bit more freedom. In that second half of the game against Gillingham, where, I mean, I'm just going to quote a Gillingham fan on social media here who says, look how Barrow played fast one-touch football in the second half. The Gills are not capable of doing that with his current crop of players. So we're being complimenting the fact that they can play really fast-paced one-touch football, they can progress, they can be creative, be aggressive. yes, it's never 100% on the manager on wing, but there certainly was some characteristics about his style of play that maybe did impact that a lot, and a lot of players might start to feel liberated. Dave, I know you had something to say on that as I was on my monologue, but...
And I can see where you're coming from. It's just, I had a bit of a habit at home games this season, and, you know, some ways as well, of kind of averting my attention towards wing when moves were breaking down. And the amount of times that he was like, you know, booting a water bottle, or, you know, you could tell he had it, or he's had his head in his hands as if to say, what are they doing? Like, why are they going back? Or why has he not played that pass? And I think he was getting as frustrated about it as the rest of us. Now, you know, whatever Regan Booty's telling you, you know, obviously we don't kind of, you know, we're not on the training ground week in, week out, but day in, day out. But I think just from his reaction when players were making certain decisions, you know, you could tell he was being frustrated about it. But, you know, I genuinely don't think he kind of sent them out with the instruction of go so far and then turn back, because, you know, beyond the 18-yard line, there be dragons. So, I mean, to be honest, if I was him, I'd have hooked some of the players in some of the games this season and said, right, you're not doing as you're told, off you come. And if it's half an hour in, then, and, you know, and it kind of makes you look bad in front of the crowd, I don't really care, because you're not enacting the game plan. But end of the day, he's gone now, isn't he? The king is dead. Long live the king. So we'll see. We'll see if it was either a tactical or psychological thing that was holding them back, or, you know, whether they can do it after listening to a new voice. I mean, let's face it. McDonald had a day and a bit to kind of put his ideas across. So, you know, again, I'm no expert in psychology, but I don't think that's long enough to kind of impart a whole new philosophy. So. And the one thing he did try and change, the kind of the shape at the back didn't work. But again, he had the sense to change it back. So let's see what happens, you know, this week. And, you know, maybe if this kind of caretaker role keeps going, you know, see if he can impart any more lasting change.
Yeah, let's go to the manager situation. Because how much do you feel like Neil McDonald's a contender for the role, Ronan?
So I've just got the list up in front of me now, and you read it, and people are getting a bit too, like, panicky about it all. Like, you could pick anyone off that list, and you have no idea what's going to happen. Like, you know what I mean? I personally, at the stage where I've read the names in front of me, and there might be people they're speaking to who are not even on the list. Do you know what I mean? And there's some proper stupid stuff on this list, like Michael Carrick, for Christ's sake. But it's like, I'm really at the stage where I don't care. The last couple of managers I wanted were Pete Wild and Andy Wing, and both of them have ended up getting the sack, and it's not gone anywhere. So what in Christ's sake do I know? So it's a bit like, I'm willing to just go with something that will keep us a bit steady for a bit. I'm happy to be boring for a bit. I don't mind being 12th for a couple of years. I just want some stability, and it's not just necessarily an on the pitch thing for me. It just, the football club needs to sort of pick a direction it's going in now, and whether we're going to go and do this whole let's be steady in League Two and build some infrastructure around it, that's fine. But I wasn't keen on sacking the current manager, although I think the timing was probably about as late as they could have left it. I think we need to just settle down for someone at a given time. My honest pick would be someone like John Brady, but Christ knows if that's within our budget, remit, and all them sort of things. But the bookmakers have got him at 8-1 or whatever it is, so we'll see.
So, I mean, talk about kind of steady hand and stuff and stability. I mean, it would put McDonald as a good potential candidate for someone like that. I mean, if it was announced tomorrow, how would you feel? Would you feel that's a lazy option? Would you feel pretty much kind of uninspired, or
feel a bit meh about it all? So I don't really know how to feel. Like, the bloke's been in the building for was it the third time now, or the second time? It just seems like we just go back inside. It's like Mr. Army gets his black book open, and it's like, shit, here's my one page of black book, and these are the people I'm going to pick in. Ergo Rob Kelly and now McDonald again. You know, McDonald was quite influential in bringing in Phil Brown, and I got to the stage where I didn't actually go to home games because I was that incensed by that stupid decision of bringing in Phil Brown, who kept us up with 1 point that he needed. But that gives you my opinion there, that if anyone thinks Phil Brown was acceptable manager in League Two in the football league, I don't think he's the right bloke for the job. But I think that answers your question there.
Where is he now, Phil Brown? He moved on recently again, didn't he?
Is he at Peterborough Sports?
Peterborough Sports, that's it, yeah.
And that is a football club, not a sports shop, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Go on, Dave. What's your kind of opinion? Where you had? I don't think it's really moved on since the last podcast. It all happened quite quick with the last managers, where the kind of wing came into the betting pretty quick. You know, he was kind of cut over. Well, when you say overnight, within hours, he just sort of appeared there. Next thing you know, he was announced, and we've had good form of announcing replacements pretty quick. I know it's only been a week or so, but there doesn't seem so much noise at all in terms of which direction they're going to go or who's a kind of standout candidate.
The rumour mill is depressingly quiet at the minute. And it's strange because, you know, sometimes you get a statement saying, you know, we're going to have a period of reflection. We're going to, you know, have a reset. We're going to see what's out in the market. We're going to talk to people. We're going to take soundings. We're going to do this, that and the other. And in the meantime, you know, we've got a very capable caretaker at the helm, but we've had nothing, have we? You know, we've had no indication as to whether it's going to be it's not a quick appointment because they've done it by now, but there's no indication as to the timescales. You know, Neil McDonald, he's kind of the man in the box seat at the minute, isn't he? If he kind of, you know, if he wins Friday night and, you know, we turn in a good performance, that's the best kind of application that you can put in. You know, we talked about Jolly being a demon with the old PowerPoint presentation, but if you're actually putting points on the board, that says a lot more than, you know, kind of a plan and an interview and, you know, all that sort of thing. So, he said he wants it. He's probably in the box seat. So, you know, if the results follow, then I would imagine we'll appoint him. But yeah, if history tells us anything, he'll be gone by this time next year anyway. So, you know, let's start speculating about the next one before we've appointed this one.
To touch on your point that when he said he wanted it, and I had to listen back, it to me, and I don't know how you both feel about it, it just screamed that Neil McDonald was brought in as just like a caveat to the point that we're going to get rid of him, and that's what it screamed to me straight away. That was all about not supporting the manager. It was all about putting a contingency plan in place to get rid of him. I don't know. It just made me feel a bit uneasy when he sort of said them words that we'd sort of basically just put that contingency plan in place. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that pre-planning because we needed some bugger. If not, it's probably going to be stew down the bread aisle and whether he's can bring with him. But I don't know. All of it just seems a bit like it's set up for him to get the job already, and it just makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. I don't know. I'm not quite into it, mate.
The thing is, the only thing I'd add to that is, you know, the manager's gone. He's there now, and he's got experience. You know, he knows the game. He's been around the club before. Obviously, he's been around various other clubs across the football league. We've got Cheltenham at home on Friday. Then we go to Accrington. Then we're away at Tranmere, and then at home to Salford on New Year's Day. I mean, it's not really a bad set of games to give him a bit of a trial run, and it could be worse. You know, it could be a worse situation than not having someone like Neil McDonald just to kind of see us through this patch to see, are we going to go with him or are we going to move somewhere else?
I mean, I'm not massively against putting that person in to sort of, you know, steady the ship and whatnot, because I actually think if we're going to sack Wing, which obviously we have, the timing was spot on. You know, we put now you know, that time scale in place to get somebody in properly, give them some time to prepare for the window that's coming up if we've got the money to do that. But I don't know. It just seems like it's already done for me, and I think the decision's already been made. I might be talking absolute rubbish, which I tend to do. So, but it just seems like that it's already been done, and I think the decision's already been made by the powers that be. But I'm not privy to that conversation. Please don't start putting money on Bet365 because I don't know.
I think if he had been parachuted in, I don't know. I think Wing's probably a strong enough character to push back on it. I think he would have kind of, well, whether he would have resigned or not, I don't know. But you know, he's not shy on social media, is he? I think we would have had a statement after a few Carlings that basically said I've been shafted, and you know, they kind of went over my head. So I'm not on that train of thought, to be honest. But yeah, from the outside looking in, it does look as though it's kind of ducks in a row. Get the experienced man ready. Yeah, who knows?
Ronan bringing a conspiracy to Spillin The Beans.
Yeah, and it took the tinfoil hat off and just...
Yeah.
just see what happens.
Yeah, but I think to go back to my point before as well, I think that's maybe why they're not in a rush, to make a decision yet, because having a guy like Neil McDonald at the helm isn't the worst situation to be in, to see us through a tough Christmas period with a run of fixtures. I mean, Salford there in the mix. I know we struggled against Tranmere. We rarely do well there, but bar Salford New Year's Day, then it goes to Bristol Rovers at home, Shrewsbury away. It's not too bad. There's an opportunity to, certainly if we play what we did in the second half against Gillingham, to pick up some points here, because the reality is we're 4 points above the drop. So that really could go south. So yeah, let's move on to the Cheltenham game.
Hello, you've reached the offices of Given Beans. All our Beans operatives are busy getting it forward at the moment. Please leave your message after the beep.
Hello, my name is Dan Hopkins. I'm a Cheltenham Town fan. I regularly sit on the Robins Report podcast. I also run one of my own podcasts, which is Talk of the County, which covers three clubs, which is Cheltenham Town, Forest Green Rovers and Gloucester City, which is the top three clubs in Gloucestershire. I participate on both podcasts regularly every week. I've been a Cheltenham Town fan for 27 years, season ticket holder for 20 years, and travelled up and down the country watching the club through thick and thin. Unfortunately, on Friday, I missed the game at Barrow with it due to be moved to a Friday because I get married. But our season so far has been indifferent. We had a very poor start to the season. And that was mainly down to the fact that the club were going through a takeover, and it showed with our recruitment. Our recruitment was very last minute. We was taken over by our new owner, Mike Garlick. Some may have heard of him. He was the owner of Burnley Football Club. He was a director and then become owner. He was part of Burnley getting from the Championship into Europe. He sold them back in 2021, I'm led to believe. I'm stand to be corrected. And he took an interest in buying Cheltenham. And the reason being, he wanted to buy a club within 2 hours where he lives, which is Hampshire, I believe. And he came in at the end of August. Since he's come in, Cheltenham has signed Sam Sherrin, Isaac Hutchinson, Ben Stevenson, Tompkinson, and most recent Hakeeb Adelican. 5 players that would not be at Cheltenham Town if we had not been taken over and had the investment. Really high caliber players who will be very expensive too. But they've come in, and along with our club legend Steve Cottrell. Steve Cottrell's little story. He took over in Cheltenham in the 1990s, took us from non-league into League One before leaving Cheltenham and going on to manage and coach at Stoke, Sunderland, Nottingham Forest, Portsmouth, Bristol City, Shrewsbury of late, and I'll say it really quietly, Forest Green Rovers. But yeah, he's returned to Cheltenham back in October, at the beginning of October. He's the king in Cheltenham. He's a Cheltenham boy. And since he's come back in, Cheltenham have picked up, in our first 10 games, we picked 4 points up from 10 games, scoring something like 4 goals, conceding some like 24 goals. Since Steve Cottrell's come in, we have now picked up 17 points in 11 games. We've kept 6 clean sheets, and like I said, the quality of players he's been able to bring in. So the season at the moment, I'm not fearing relegation now. January there's going to be a massive turnover. We've already started paying players off who have not featured. We've got a very big squad. So the likes of Harry Pal and Liang Gao have been paid off early. And there will be many more who will be leaving the club in the not too distant future. So expect a very busy January transfer window from Cheltenham. Depending on the quality Cheltenham can get in, The bookies put out there after we beat Swindon away last Tuesday, there had been a 75% increase in bets on Cheltenham Town getting the playoffs. I believe we're 10 or 11 points off at the moment. Do I believe we get the playoffs? I think it might be a bit too far this season. But do I think we get relegated? No. I think there's definitely a lot worse than us in the league. We beat Swindon away last week, but disappointingly we drew 1-1 on Saturday against Harrogate at home due to a late penalty, which was very dubious. Our trip to Barrow, I fully expect it to be a difficult game. We've had a few difficult games at your end. I was on the Robins report last night, and we described it as one of those places you go that if you're not up for the fight, you don't dig in. You're not willing to run that extra yard, which we will under Steve Cottrell, that you'll get found out. But we have had a turnaround in performances, and we have got a manager who will accept nothing less than 100%. One of our BBC Radio Gloucestershire commentators, Mark Halliwell, asked him a question after Swindon about a couple of players who really worked hard, and Steve Cottrell's answer was, "I will praise a player for playing well, but I would not praise a player for working hard, because that is a given." So that tells you the mentality we got at Cheltenham. Anyway, I was surprised to see you sack your manager because you've not really been dragged into any sort of danger yet, even though you languish just above us, I think, on the same points. But I don't think you've had that dip of where you're thinking, are we going to go down or anything? So I was surprised to see you get rid of Weldon. But I can see a narrow 1-0 win for Cheltenham. That's me being positive. If I was going with my heart, I'm going 1-0 Cheltenham. If I was going with my head, I could probably see it being a draw. Thanks very much.
Well, Dave, it's nice to know that our reputation still being a tough place to come to is still out there, because we've not won a home game since Crewe. When was that? 20th of September or something. So we're absolutely desperate for one. Do you think it can happen this Friday?
It can do, but at the same time, it depends on the players, doesn't it? Depends whether they decide to play for 90 minutes, 45 minutes, or maybe even not at all. Who knows? But as the lad there said, that they've kind of been on a good run of form. I did the numbers earlier, and I think if you kind of extrapolate the points that they've gathered so far since Cottrell came back, they'd end up on 78, which is a strong playoff position, if not automatic form. They've only won the one away, and that was at to be fair, that was at Swindon, who were going really well this season. So, it's like a lot of teams in this league. They're obviously capable of good performances and good results, but they're also capable of having an off day. So I think it's really going to be interesting how we perform on this one on Friday night, in terms of both attitude and kind of application, and that word bravery again. And that's not, matching the mighty Cheltenham in the physical fight. That's, taking our man on. That's going forward. That's taking a risk in the final third. That's what we need to be looking for. And, as you're alluding to there, Jonny, the home form's been, pretty rubbish this season. So hopefully those of us that turn up on Friday night will have something to kind of get behind and be excited by. And if we get a draw, but we play in the right manner, I'll take that. Obviously, 3 points will be very, very welcome.
Yeah, it was definitely the home form that got Wing the Sack, Ronan. We're going to be absolutely desperate to get something from Friday in that sense. Did he mention Liangol there as well at ex-Morecambe? Is he a free agent now? Is he the answer to our striker woes? Would you see with a barrel shirt, Ronan?
It depends if you think Derek Adams is going to be our next manager or not. I'm sure Derek would love Liangol to be reunited for about the umpteenth time. Sorry. I'm similar to Dave. I think when we talk about bravery, we're not talking about smashing your man from, across the park. We're talking about being more positive with the ball and whatnot. I actually think we're now at the stage where we've got to win the game on Friday. We can't just keep doing what we're doing. I think we've really got to go out and try and take the game to Cheltenham. The positivity for me behind it would be a lot of folk in Barrow breaking up for Christmas on Friday, and with hopefully a few pints behind him, and want to back the team on Friday night, and hopefully it can just get a bit of positivity back in the place, a bit more belief, and get us away from this position that we're in now, which is not an unsalvageable one at all. So I think there's a massive opportunity to go and hopefully get a positive result and just take us away and put that early sort of marker down, playing Friday before most teams and just putting some positivity back on people's faces, just ready for Christmas time.
Yeah, Dave, it could be an opportunity to give a little bit of breathing space on that threat of the relegation zone. I mean, Shrewsbury are at home to Chesterfield. Crawley've got a really tough game away at Swindon. Then you've got Harrogate away to MK Dons. So, that's the three teams that are directly below us, not including Cheltenham themselves, who obviously, on the same points of us with a worse goal difference, quite a significant worse goal difference, actually. They're on minus 17 and we're on minus 8. I don't know. That happened. Probably going back to the pre-Cotterill days that he mentioned before. But yeah, there is a real chance there to give a little bit of breathing space. And then, Accrington after that, Dave, this is a big opportunity the next two games. I think the players, regardless of who's in the dugout, have got to see it as that chance to take the pressure off just that little bit.
Yeah, this is it. And again, from a player's point of view, even being selfish, the January window opens and I'm sure there's WhatsApps flying around of agents trying to move players on or trying to get, players, out of certain clubs and into other ones and all that sort of thing. So, even from a selfish point of view, like, kind of said last week about them winning games, even if they're not doing it for the fan base, do it for themselves to get a win bonus, start putting some performances in and, maybe earn yourself a move or, if you're not putting it in, then you go higher on the list for the ones that we're looking to punt out, either on loan or permanently. So it's that time of year when, the games come thick and fast and you kind of, come to your senses in kind of the first week of January and think, oh, right, okay, we're there, are we now? That looks a whole lot more either positive or negative depending on the run. And I mean, you kind of talk about the run of fixtures there. I don't think Accrington will be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. They're above us in the league table and, fair play to them. They had a really sticky situation for large periods of last season, but they had a plan. They were buying players from Conference North. They were buying, they're doing the usual thing of, young scousers who've been released by the bigger clubs. And they had a new manager, and they were going to back him, and they have backed him. They could have if we'd have had the results Accrington were having last season, we'd have sacked him because that's what we do. Everything looks all right for a while, then we have a bit of a sticky period, then we panic and we sack him. Whereas John Doolan, I don't think at any stage last season, he probably put himself under a lot of pressure, but there was no noise kind of on the grapevine of, he's got, 3 games to save his job or anything like that. And fair play to them, they've made a good signing up front with Paddy Madden. Some of the players that they signed last season have now got 50, 60 games under the belt in League Two after coming from, Curzon, Ashton and places like that. And, maybe slowly but surely they're turning themselves into a decent League Two team again after, they were a decent team for so long under Coleman, weren't they? So I don't think that'll be a walk in the park. Tranmere, inconsistent team. They look like world beaters at certain times, but then they got hammered last on Saturday, didn't they? And then Salford, who knows what you're going to get with Salford? They seem to be a bit more of a steady outfit at the minute. Salford, they seem to have a bit more structure and a bit more depth to them. But again, you've played them. You'll be playing them on New Year's Day after a tough run of fixtures, so maybe fatigue comes into play. But who knows? Let's get the old cliche out the bag and take each game as it comes and see what happens on Friday night.
Yeah, that's it. And I think just on the new manager situation as well, I think there's not going to be a new manager in place for Friday. That's for sure. Then it's Christmas. The likelihood is here that Neil McDonald's here pretty much probably, he's taken us to Accrington on Boxing Day. I think that should be pretty much a given. And just saying there about being tough there, Dave, we never seem to do well there. I don't think we've won there since we've kind of got back in the league and played them.
I'm struggling to remember a win. I remember when I was a kid, we went there and beat them 5-0 at their place. They had their Norwegian supporters club in tow, and we absolutely walloped them that night. But yeah, apart from that, I'm struggling to think of any wins. That was a mere 30 years ago or so. So not long.
Yeah, I'll forgive you for not remembering that far back. I think we all know we'll probably get involved as well for the Accrington pod next week. We'll tap up old Stanley Ultra Jace it'll be good to hear from him. And but a bit too much sometimes for Anaki and Barrow loving though, so I might have to do something about that next week, Dave. I'll have to dig out the hate.
I was going to say, it's the spirit of the old Unibond League days when we had that spat for a season when we was it a title race? They came top and we came second, but it was close for about 3 weeks, I think it was. But they left us for dust, didn't they? At that period, it got a bit niggly. It's like a lot of things. If you look at a lot of our rivalries over the years, they kind of burn brightly for a short amount of time. You know, Workington, where are they now? Filed. Are they even still going? I don't know. There's all sorts of teams that we have little kind of spats with for, you know, short amount of time, and then they kind of disappear, and then, then we decide that Carlisle are a rival because we, a shared knowledge of James Phillips shouldn't be the basis for a derby game, as far as I'm concerned.
Each to their own, no, Dave.
Well, this is it. I keep getting told that actually it's our derby, and I'm thinking, well, we've only started playing them in the last few years, but, never mind. For me, it's this lot up the road. It's Morecambe, but that's maybe because I'm, in amongst them and enjoying the moral high ground for now. For not only the fact that obviously we're higher in the pyramid, but other reputational things going on at Morecambe. I think I'm enjoying them.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, this season so far has felt pretty quiet. With certainly without Carlisle. I think in that sense, it's been a bit flatter, that's for sure. So I don't mind bringing back a bit of tension and a bit of rivalry into it. So yeah, Friday night then, funny one, Black Eye Friday. So get yourself to Holker Street, get yourself, I'll say, down Cornwallis afterwards, but that's not even a thing where anybody ventures these days, I don't think. Any other business, Dave? These fixtures kind of coming thick and fast. There'll be some buses on the go at Accrington.
That's it, yeah. The Christmas buses. So if get yourselves booked on for Accrington and Tranmere. What a lovely stocking filler for someone that you love, or maybe don't quite like so much as you used to. Get them a ticket for Tranmere away and a bus trip or something like that. And that's about it, I think, really.
Cool. We'll leave it there then. Let's see what Friday brings. Ronan, Dave, nice one. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Jonny.
Got me round here from a northern town.